Hey guys, before we get going, I want to talk about my friends at Game Time. The big game is here, and there's no better time to get out and grab some tickets than with the help of Game Time, the official ticketing partner of Barstool Sports. You know how much we love Game Time. Now with their brand new Game Time Picks feature, they're making it even easier to get to a game. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Philly is looking to knock off Kansas City in New Orleans, and you've got to get your tickets with Game Time. I was looking at tickets, actually. How about this? We'll pull up the big game here. I was looking at other tickets. I'm seeing Steph Curry is coming to the United Center next weekend. You can get as low as $78. Steph's getting up there in age, so you might want to check that out. You know, it's definitely not a bad idea. But I'm pulling it up right now. This is live, okay? So the big game, you can get in as low as $4,500, okay? Just go to that Game Time Picks deals for great deals on great seats. Just pull up that chosen event, turn on the GT Picks setting at the top of the screen, or browse the best local Game Time Picks deals near you on your Game Time app homepage. What are you waiting for? I'm going to go buy those tickets to the big game now with Game Time Picks. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code DOGWALK for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code DOGWALK for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. What time is it? Game time. All right, bang. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. I have an in-studio guest today. His name is Barry Anderson, and he was Benny the Bull for 14 years. Benny, legendary mascot. I mean, I've definitely come across you as a youngster for sure. So it's great to meet you. Great to have you in. I'm excited to talk mascots.
Well, thanks for having me.
So, obviously, the first question: how the hell did you get into being a mascot?
That usually is the first question. Or like, how did you get in here? Is obviously a question I get. So I was in college. We went obviously to all the football games. I went to University of Montana.
Okay.
They have a great football program there. It's 24,000. They pack it every game. It's rocking. So we would go to all the football games, basketball, and I'm obviously into the game, and we're having a great time. But there was this bear costume running around, and I'm like, what is this? I mean, I'd never seen. I grew up a farm community in Montana. And we were our high school were the Cowboys. We didn't have a mascot. Everyone was a cowboy. So I was just captivated by this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is happening? Why does this guy get to run around and wear this costume and just get to walk around wherever he wants? So I was a theater major, dance minor. So
that kind of mixes.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, I wasn't a rocket scientist, obviously. So I was just like, it like started to, there were some like switches being flicked on in my head. Like, I like this. This is kind of cool. He can just do stuff and he's performing the whole time. But then, after a few games, I was like getting frustrated. Like, why isn't that kid doing something? I don't know the rules. I don't know the protocol. I don't know anything about anything. I'm, 19 and barely can tie my shoe. So I was like, why isn't he out there, slapping the ref on the butt and pulling people out of the field? And, why isn't he climbing the goalpost? And I just wanted him to be everywhere, running, running plays. I didn't know. So as years went by, I just became more and more obsessed. My friends were like, "Bro, you gotta chill. It's getting weird."
Yeah.
And so, finally, I almost graduated. I just had some few credits to finish up. I was waiting tables at a pizza place. A friend of mine put the ad up from the school newspaper on my door, and he's like, and it was a audition call. It was like, "Hey, do you want to be the next Monty? Come to the audition meeting." And I wasn't really thinking about auditioning. I just wanted to like see who are these people doing this?
Yeah.
Like I want like where did these people come from? I had no way of knowing. I don't know if they're shipping them in or who these people are. So I went, was in the room, and I was like, oh, I could do this. Like just hearing them talk about it and the behind the scenes, what went into it. And I've had the time, you know, or so I thought, and did the audition, and
The rest is history.
the rest is history.
So what was the audition like? Like, what were the prerequisites?
It was loose. It was like, you know, do a, you know, 5-minute bit or whatever. Prepare a routine. What does that mean? You know, I had no idea what that meant. What's a routine? I'd never been in a costume, let alone this one. What do you do? And so, you know, I danced. You know, it's something I did, and it was something that I didn't have to really think too much about. So I put together this, you know, a series of songs that, you know, I brought out. I was going to bring in the stereo and songs that the songs kind of getting messed up and the genres change, and I have to keep dancing to different songs and real genius stuff. and
Like an evolution of dance type deal.
Yes, yeah. We called it. I've been doing that routine now for the rest of my life. I mean, it's because it's just a go-to. You can do it in any country, any situation, because it's the language of music and dance. So
yeah,
I would. We called it the bag of dance because you're just like pulling out songs and genres out of a bag. But so that was the plan. That was going to be my bit. We're in the volleyball gym. And so we get dressed in the closet, like the storage closet where they keep all the balls and nets and stuff, which is very dimly lit. The costume's in there. You're like the third person to wear it. So it's not fresh. And I've never worn it or any sort of costume. You put it on, it's hot. You can't see, like it was the, you know, an early costume. You're looking out the nose. You can barely see in the room now. You know, you're like, is it on right? I'm not sure. What is that smell? They're like, okay, you're on. The door opens and it's like you're at a rodeo and you're on. And and I go out in the gym, sort of just run out because they kind of kick you out. And you're on the opposite side of this gym. So I'm like, well, I can't just walk over. That's awkward. So I start running over there. And it was, in that instant, I knew, okay, this, I'm going to need more of this instantly, because the judges panel, they're looking at you and they want you to be good. It's the great thing about college athletics. You know, these are people that went to these schools. They have a generational connection to these schools in a different way than a pro team. You know what I mean? You're on the campus. You've lived, you had your, you know, some of your first girlfriend there. You've, you know, so many things that connect to your college. So they're excited just to see their mascot running at them. And so there's this instant, because you're not a person, you are an embodiment of their school and their fandom. They instantly like you. There's no like, oh, what's he wearing? Or, I won't expect a different. They're just this instant acceptance. And I'm running at them. I see their eyes light up, and I was like, the routine went out the window, and I don't know what possessed me to do that. I ran all the way. I jumped over the judges' table, slammed in this big bin of volleyballs and stuff that was behind them. The thing burst open. Balls are everywhere. They're like, what the hell? Just what? And then I jump into a garbage can, and I'm rolling around like I'm trapped and I can't get out. And just, I mean, absolutely off the rails. And they just ate it up, because they'd never seen
something
Monty
so out there.
Yeah, it was just so.
Monty was loose.
He was loose. He was not well, but they were into it, and I just knew, like, okay. I had plans to go to grad school to get my master's in theater.
Uh-huh.
And so after the first year, I was like, I got to do more of this.
Mm-hmm.
So
then did you get the Benny the Bull job right out of college, or?
So I did it for 3 years. After the first year, we won this NCAA Mascot of the Year award. And that's when things like really kind of popped off over there, because Montana's a small state. they're very, people are very prideful of the state, but there's not a lot of, times where you sort of get national attention.
No, I mean, and there's so many big time mascots. Like I just met Sebastian.
Yeah.
The Hurricane, the Otto the Orange. There's so many big ones. So
yeah,
that's a big deal, I feel, for Montana.
For sure.
Yeah,
schools that
awesome.
are institutions that have, been around forever.
Yeah.
Get national TV time every week. So we won this thing and it was, it was a big deal. And the fact that a little school, and there was like even a public voting portion of it. And so we were like, how did Montana win this thing? So it was like an ESPN Capital One thing. And so that happened. And that first year was just amazing. And so I canceled those plans and explained that to my mother. Didn't go well. And then the athletic department, because it was a lot of work. It was a lot. It just was just more and more stuff coming in. So the athletic department made a job for me as assistant marketing director. It was just like a random title.
Oh, nice.
So they could put me on staff instead of, because I couldn't just be like a volunteer mascot. There were some rules.
Okay.
So then that's when I started getting more integrated with like the business side of sports. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Just the whole sports theater connected to the business side was really cool.
So then did you see like a posting for Benny, or how did that come about? Were you referred? Was it like, all right, now you go from a college mascot to a professional mascot?
Yeah. There was just a poster up on a telephone pole. It was like, take one if you want to be
You want to be Benny.
if you want to be a mascot. So I'd met, so the NBA will do these out of market preseason games, where they go to a non-NBA market and to, spread the brand. So the Sonics had a game in Missoula where I was in school, and it was a big deal. I think Gary Payton was still playing, and it was their mascot comes, which I didn't know who, so they bring Mascot, and I was like, oh my God, he's going to be a mascot, Squatch. And he was awesome. He was very generous with his time. We sat, we talked shop. I had asked him a million questions, and he was the one, where he was like, we performed. He let me be in a couple of his bits during the game, and he, he was like, you should think about doing this beyond college if you wanted to. It's a career.
R.I.P. Squatch, by the way.
What? Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
One of these days.
Yeah.
He'll
one of these days.
Oh yeah. Sure. He'll pull him out of the closet or wherever he's at.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting fact: when the team moved to Oklahoma City, he was only one of a small handful of employees that actually made the move.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He moved his whole family to go there because these are full-time jobs. Like in all these teams, it's a full-time career. So he was like, well, I don't want to, like, what am I going to do in Seattle? Well, I'm not Squatch anymore, right? It's not like I can be a dentist or sell insurance. So he was like, well, let's keep this thing going.
Yeah. God, I wonder where that suit is.
He probably has one. I mean, because over time you collect.
You have many, like you have,
oh, yeah.
How many?
Imagine you're just burning through countless suits a game.
Did you get a new one every year?
At least. So, every team's budgets are differently in how they approach using their mascot, but you're going over time, you build up an inventory of, because every year you generally get maybe like a new head, because they take a lot of wear and tear. They're beating, they're hot, they're sweaty. The fur starts to kind of, get weird, and you want to make changes. You're like, make the eyes, can we make them a little bit, the eyes aren't quite aligned with my eyes, or we can make it breathe a little bit better, or
cosmetically.
Just or internally, just like the function for the performer. So you'll collect, we had.
And they let you keep them? So you just
no, they generally, I mean, some guys, a lot of guys will take one at least home if they have an event. They got to be on WGN at 6 a.m. to a weather hit promoting the season or whatever.
I'm not coming to the United Center at 5 to go.
Some guys, some people would. I generally would, and I just kind of felt weird about bringing the costume home, but
You don't have one hanging in your closet still?
I wore one here. Yeah. I drive around.
You left
in
it outside?
Yeah, I don't
That's
own
so
coats.
kind of you.
No
Yeah.
coats, just Ben.
All right, sorry. So go back. So Squatch was impressed with you. Clearly, it was like
I don't know about
"You should do this."
impressed, but he was, you could tell that I was really interested, and he was like, you think about it, but if you do want to do this, start filming everything, because that's your resume. The teams aren't going to be concerned with your GPA, since 2, they're not like your volunteer activities. They just want to see, can you do it? And can you hold a conversation? And if you can show some business acumen, okay, then you're in another level. But really, and at that time, they're just looking for someone who can deliver the goods. Mm-hmm. And just how you even package your highlight video tells them a lot. You know what I mean? And what they're seeing in it, if it's intelligent humor, or if it's, if you show that you have a love for things that are off the field, kids, charities, that kind of stuff. So he's like, just start filming and everything. And so you have material. So otherwise you're just relying on what happens to be on the scoreboard. There were no, high res cell phone videos, in 2002. There was nothing. There was no YouTube. There was no way to share, videos. So we had someone that kind of just followed me around and filmed a lot of stuff. So at the end of the third year, we had quite a bit of content, and we'd been doing other sort of short form videos and stuff, because there was sort of this interest in Monty, and he'd won this thing, and now people wanted to see like more of that vibe and that sort of style of kind of humor and dynamic way of performing that I kind of like to do. I like to throw my body around a lot and just kind of wreak havoc. So we're doing more and more. And so when I left, and the Bulls, Mark, who was Squatch at the time, he called me and he said, "Hey, there are 2 teams. Well, there's one team." He told me about the Pistons. The Pistons had an opening, and he was like, "You should, I hope you got your video together, because this thing they're gonna fill it fast, because these pro jobs don't." He wasn't anticipating going from college to pros. He was like, you go to minor leagues, you work your way up, you got to cut your teeth, and you never know. It's not like you kind of, backwards Plinko your way. You just kind of got to figure out what this team had an opening there. Now I'm in, Scottsdale. Oh, now
no direct path.
Durham Bulls. Yeah. So he was like, "Hey, the Pistons actually have an opening, and you could be a decent fit for that." So I gave him my video. He sent it over to them, because it's nice coming from another mascot. So they called. I was shocked. Flew me out. Went to Auburn Hills. So I'd never been anywhere. So
what year was this?
This was 04.
Okay,
I believe 03. So flew out to Detroit, rent a car out to Auburn Hills, got lost again. Paper maps.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm lost. I'm late. There's an interview. We walked me around the arena. Mm-hmm. It was cool. They were very nice, very kind, and they were also just very transparent. They were like, "We loved your video. You're our guy for, as far as we're concerned. So we'll, if you're interested, we're interested. We'll reach out with a number and a start date, and, we'll kind of go from there." And there's all conversations that are over my head. Like, I never discussed money or any sort of negotiation of any sort. Yeah. So I was like, "What, like phone number? What do you mean? Talking number? I don't know what that means."
Yeah.
So went back. They, were very generous, especially then. And I'm, just coming out of college, waiting tables at a pizza place. So I was like, oh, and I was like, okay. So I was going to play it cool. Going to take a few days. And in that time, I got a phone call at my house, and I pick it up. This woman says, hi, my name is Deborah from the Chicago Bulls. Is Benny there? Is Barry there? And I'm like, oh, it's a prank call. Like, I had not spoken to the Bulls. I was like, oh, unfortunately, there was an accident. He died last week. So,
really?
So, is there anything I can do for you? And then I hung up. I'm just assuming someone's joshing me. And
I thought you said that Benny died. Sorry, continue. I thought you were saying like, oh, our Benny died. Do you want to be Benny?
Yeah, Benny.
You said that.
Benny passed.
All right.
So it's so. 4 or 5 minutes later, the phone rings. I'm like, all right. I look at the caller ID this time, like an adult would. Chicago Bulls. My head falls off, and I realize I just hung up on the Chicago Bulls. But also, like, why are the Chicago Bulls calling me? And the stuff that goes through your mind in the span of 5 seconds is like, did I do something wrong? Am I in trouble? Like ludicrous thoughts. So I answer, and she's like, hi, I'm just making sure I have the right number. And I was like, yeah, sorry, that was my roommate. He's an idiot. So then we talked, and they're like, we received your tape. We're kind of having an off the radar search. They didn't want it to be public, so they were kind of doing a lot of word of mouth. And we liked your tape. You've got a different style, and at that time, Benny was the big Benny, 90s Benny. And even in the 80s, it was always a larger character, and they wanted to. And they had Double at that time, which was Chicago's answer at the time for what had become the way to go, which was to have a mascot that could dunk. The gorilla, and then the Hornet, and then they had this character Turbo in Houston. These characters could dunk. It was like if you didn't dunk and you're an NBA mascot, like, well, what's the point? What are you doing?
Yeah.
So the Bulls brought in this character. It didn't work out. It's pretty well, published. There was an incident where the character was arrested for trying to move some cannabis. Ended up being an undercover police officer. So that character instantly had to die. You can't recover from that. You can't bring back a character who publicly was, had tried to sell weed, So
in costume?
No. God, boy, it'd almost be better if it was.
Could you imagine Benny pushing?
Yeah. Double.
Yeah.
Double. So they had 2 characters at the time.
Oh,
so
really?
he was the dunking mascot.
They had Benny and DeBull.
Benny and DeBull. Yeah.
Oh.
So
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It was, well, you're young.
Yeah.
You're a whippersnapper.
Yes. Not really. But.
So this was, so they had a dunking mascot, and they had Benny, which was like beloved. First NBA mascot, actually. Benny.
Oh, really?
1969, yeah.
Didn't know that.
So the Bull had to go. The gentleman who was Benny, it was a part-time job. He decided to hang it up. He'd done it for 18 years. It's a part-time job. He was driving from Indiana every game. It was just time. He was a little bit older. Wonderful, amazing man. And so they were looking to combine the characters. Like, let's make. So someone in a meeting was like, let's make Benny dunk, and somehow that got approved. Somehow, I can't. It was, heck of a move to do that, because to take a mascot that was always this and just beloved and known in Chicago. It was the championship years. He was on national TV.
Yep.
Not a lot of mascots making national TV. In the 90s. So, shrink him up, and they're like, we want someone who can dance, who can dunk, can, bring that kind of style. So he flew me out. And again, this was maybe a day before I was going to take this Pistons job. And I mean, from the jump, it was different. They picked me up, in a black car, it was like a little mini limo from the airport. I've never been in a limo, obviously. Take me to the hotel, pick me up. So there's an interview, right? And I know there's going to be an interview the next day. I don't own a pair of dress socks at this point in my life. So I had to walk to the nearest Foot Locker, and I bought some like Nike black socks for dress socks, as I had to, wear something. Didn't have a tie, just wore some oversized button-up shirt like a fool. So drove me to the stadium, did a tour, had the interview, like the first day interview was in the Bulls locker room, like on the Bull head, like, I can't even comprehend what is happening. Like 2 days ago, I was like on a mountain in Montana, and now I'm here. They have the Jordan's locker is sort of memorialized. It's not to be used by anybody, but it's there. I'm looking at it. Pippen had been sort of signed for like a year, sort of like
they brought him back.
Right. For just like so he could retire as a Bull. So his locker room's there, his locker's there. They did it right. They could have had that interview anywhere. So I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. The interview is cool. Go to do the audition. And again, it's like, come up with a routine. Like, I've never been in this costume. It's gigantic. You can't see. It's not, it was kind of a nightmare, honestly, because I was used to a costume that was like on my body and like do stuff with. So I had Rocky, the Denver Nuggets mascot, everyone. So they're kind of the closest professional team in the sort of market of Missoula, Montana, the Nuggets and the, Sonics. And so it's that area. So everybody had said like, oh man, the Rocky, the Nuggets mascot, like he's the best. He's amazing. He does this thing where he shoots a ball at half court over his head and he makes every time, never misses. And we're like, so where's it at? And I'm like, okay, no problem. And you don't see these things. There's no way. There's no YouTube. There's no social videos, right? So unless it's on the news, you don't see it. So it's not like
it's crazy to think
I
about.
can see what they're talking about.
They're
for all I know, they're just full of hot air. So I'm like, I can do that. So I started practicing and, eventually kind of got to where I could get reasonably close. and then it kind of got to the point where I could actually, hit a few, occasionally in a game. People were just excited that if it would hit the rim, people, oh, this guy's a genius. So then I kept working on it. So I was decent at it. So for some reason in my head, I thought, oh, well, as far as a routine, I don't know what to do. I'll go shoot half court. I'll go shoot a half court shot. So stupid. Like I'm going to do something that I can make maybe 20% of the time on my best day. Mm-hmm. I'm going to try to do this for an audition for my career. We get out there. It's summer, it's like August. The floor's not down. There's no way, I didn't know. So we get out there and it's just the concrete. I mean, there's no ice. There's nothing.
No hoop or anything?
Nothing.
Yeah.
No. Did they bring a hoop? No, I don't think so. No, they didn't have it. And that's why this is so ridiculous. So I go out there. They're like, what do you need for your routine? I'm like, I need a ball rack, a garbage can, and, something. And I need I have a stereo, whatever. Because I was going to do the same bit. And I did. Luckily, I had that lined up. So I go out there to do half court shot. There's no hoop, no basket, no floor, no reasonable understanding of how far half court would be. So I'm like, my God. So I wheel this rack of balls out to, I don't know, half court. And I looked and I'm like, I just started launching these balls. They're just bouncing in nothingness all around the area. And I'm just like, I just go home. Just take the head off and go home right now. And so at one point I'm like, it went. I'm like, yes. And I do a circle and I'm like, yeah. And they think this is a bit that I had intentionally, like I knew, oh, there's no hoops. So this is going to be some absurd, very high level, like it wasn't. I was just a buffoon. So they thought, so then we did the routine and, you walk in the arena, they've got my name on the ribbon boards, Chicago Bulls welcome, Barry. And I'm like, so compared to the Detroit experience.
Well, congrats, Barry. I mean, it sounds like you're like the only free agent the Bulls have gotten in the 21st century. So I'm happy to hear that.
That's not true. Yeah, it was
you and Carlos Boozer.
Yeah, that's exactly who I was. That's exactly who I was.
Sorry,
I was thinking of.
But that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was a series of extremely lucky situations all strung together with a lot of people that allowed me to keep doing, what I wanted to do to get, and that's like my whole career has been like that. It's just been, I've only been able to do what I've been able to do and do the thing that I love more than anything because people have allowed me, they've trusted and supported it, even when I would absolutely just punt a ball into the stands figuratively, they would still support. And so very, very lucky. Did not go well that first year.
No.
Oh, and people hated me.
Why? Actually?
Yeah, it was brutal.
People knew?
I would go
because
home.
that's when they made the split, right? You were the first Benny the Bull.
I was the first skinny Benny.
Okay, so they're like, okay, Benny lost weight.
Yeah, like what happened? There was a lot of jokes like, does he have an eating disorder? Yeah. Is he like, what happened? Are you sick? Is he, like in the hospital? There was just a lot of jokes, and he was in the news and sports radio. They're like, what is going on over there? There was no like explanation. And the Bulls were just like, we're just going to do this, and at some point people will forget. First year was rough. I mean, I'd go home and I'd crying because people just be yelling mean stuff at me.
Really?
I got hit with a 9-volt battery one time.
Oh,
I don't know why anybody would bring a 9-volt battery to a game, but it like hit me right in the neck, and then I was like, what the hell was that? I'm like running off. Someone picked it up, like someone threw a battery at you. I'm like, well, that's rude.
So
that's not the Montana way.
How did you win everyone over after a year?
I like the Bull said, I think it just took a while for people just to sort of like accept, and then like over time, I think people started actually like really just take it in. You're like, okay, we're past the point of we don't like what it looks like, and that's all we're thinking of. To, all right, well, this is what they're doing now. Let's see what he's doing. Mm-hmm. And I think then people kind of saw, oh, we're doing different stuff here. We're climbing on things. We're pulling jokes on people. We're in the crowd. We're being a bit of a menace. They liked that, and that's what I've always enjoyed about. Like this, everyone has their own style of performing, and mine is a bit of a menace. There's something. I mean, sports fans are a bit of a menace. We're yelling at the refs, we're yelling at the players, drinking. Like it's just a lot of aggression, and I think a lot of us as fans want to go down and be. We want to get in there and cause a ruckus and yell at the players. We want that connection down to the field or the court more than we get in the stands, and so I kind of get to be that for the crowd. I get to go out and and mess with the ref. I get to go bring the cheerleader out onto the court.
Pour popcorn on someone's head.
Throw popcorn on someone's head.
Exactly.
Every kid's dream growing up.
Yeah.
How do I throw food on people and get paid for it? Yeah.
No, that's awesome. So then you do that for 14 years. That's great. So are you in, when you go to a game now,
yep,
whatever game it is, are you intently watching the Mascot's performance?
Yeah. To an extent, if they're interesting. And I'm not talking about bulls.
I'm saying anything.
Anything. If they're interesting, and generally I'll know a little bit of background about who it is before.
Oh, really? Okay.
Especially if it's like a pro or even like semi-pro.
So it's a small community.
Yeah. Yes. And especially within each league. The basketball guys are real tight. The baseball guys are tight.
Oh, really?
And even across leagues, there's a little bit of competition.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
I like that.
Especially yeah. There's a little bit of shit talking.
Yeah.
There's especially now with social media.
Yeah.
Now it's like, you put your stuff out there, and again, like you go back to years before, you look at the legends like the Gorilla, Rocky, Fanatic. Unless you saw them on the news, we didn't, even me now, there's just not a lot of footage that's out there, but they were doing just volumes of epic work that is just not out there. Yeah, we just will never see. Mm-hmm. So modern day mascots benefit from social media, even though we're doing probably less than what they used to, because there were no rules. There were no mascot rules back then.
Yeah.
It was off the rails. People were, jumping through fire hoops and like, lifting up referees and taking them into the crowd. I mean, it was a gong show. Mm-hmm. And rules had to slowly come into place. Like you can't be picking up referees, or like you can't, Rocky was famous for like having this feud with Charles Barkley for years.
Yeah.
And, the league was kind of like, yeah, okay, we got to like draw a line here. We can't, he would like set up bits with Barkley, not formally but there was an understanding over years, and he'd be like, hey, you can give it to me. Like don't hold back. Like, I'm going to give it to you. You give it to me. And I mean, Barkley just decked him one time, but it was like kind of what he wanted.
Yeah.
But he like laid him out pretty good.
Really?
Yeah. A little harder than he thought, because he's a giant man. So, all these rules had to kind of be put in place, over time.
Hey guys, I want to take another break here to talk about the DraftKings Sportsbook. This ain't the little itty bitty teeny tiny bowl. This is Super Bowl 59. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 59. Scoring touchdowns is key to hoisting the Vince Lombardi Trophy, and you have a shot to score big by betting on them at DraftKings Sportsbook, the number one place to bet touchdowns. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like a player to score 6. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code DOGWALK. That's code DOGWALK for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. What is those are the only, what's the hottest suit you've been in? Like, what is Benny or the
so I did work with, Tony the Tiger.
Okay.
Which they have like, one costume that is sort of the costume, that they would use for commercials or a high profile appearance or whatever. And that costume was made by Henson Studios, and they do, just unbelievable, movie grade
quality
work. Yeah, unbelievable. But it's not always like a lot of like movies. These costumes and these things that people have to wear for Marvel movies and whatever. They're not really made to be worn for long extended periods of time with very physical activity. Where you're breathing heavily and you're around and around. You don't have a cut and then you have a team of people come over and like, give you everything you need, like a NASCAR pit crew. So, that costume is, it was pretty hot. I mean, it's tight and it's a lot of pads. And it's really on you. So that one couldn't really be in for a very long time, but,
fun fact, Tony the Tiger, it's hot in there.
That should be the slogan. Yeah. It's hot in here.
Hot in there, yeah. I also assume that all these suits, all these mascot costumes are like locked up like Fort Knox. Is that true? Or are they really just in a closet? Because where I went to school, Southern Illinois, and this is why I think maybe it happened after. Someone stole a Great Dog outfit. It was like a local news.
Yeah,
it's a big deal.
College,
because you don't realize someone steals that one day. There's no penny for.
Yeah,
I mean, you said they have one every year, so I assume they have an old one on deck somewhere. But
yeah. At this point, you would have a number of, you'd probably have 6 heads to choose from, 15 different bodies and whatever. But it happens, I think more often than not. I mean, at the college level, because you just, college kids, there's not always a real protocol for these kinds of things. You do an appearance here and then you have a game and it's like, well, I got to take it to the laundromat and wash it. And, it's going to be in my car, and then they get drunk and they figure out they leave the car at the bar. When, it's just like stuff happens.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, things are pretty locked up. Yeah. Eye scans, biometrics to get in.
Iron Man shit. As far as people getting aggressive, did that happen every game, every few games, or multiple times a game? Go walk through me with that.
It depends on where you're at, what kind of event you're at, or if it's at a game, and you just really never know. You would find that up in the 300 level of the United Center, things could get a little hairier. You just kind of get a little bit more of a rowdy crowd up there. The beer's flowing a little bit more. It's just that, which kind of makes that area of the arena the most fun in a lot of ways. You can go up there and you can just gets a little loose up there. But, people can get a little handsy, a little grabby, a little aggressive. They just kind of forget that it's like a person who's doing a job and can actually feel these things. Sort of something happens when people see a person in a costume, where they just forget that costume is not like a superhuman shield, and they can just grab and shake you and smack the head around. You're like, okay, I'm in here, man. So but yeah, I mean, sometimes, and that's where you have to have like a good assistant with you, or team handler or whatever. Bulls were, very generous enough to provide I had a full-time assistant for most of my time there, which good. Some of the, there are a number of teams, but it's not the norm. But we had one, and it was a game changer, because that person could be there and like, hey, all right, we're good with the punching. Thanks.
So what's like the worst situation of someone being aggressive towards you?
Actually, I mean, honestly, I feel like there were a couple times where people tried to rip the head off.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wait, that's like just fucking with your neck.
Yeah, it's not fun. Yeah. All of it. Yeah. It's like, you can't breathe. And it's, there's a lot of things going through your head. You're like, if this thing comes off, then there are a lot of people that are going to see on your face. It's going to be weird. Yeah. So that happened a couple of times, and it's generally like someone takes offense to something I would do. Part of the skill of this, hopefully, is more often than not, you're reading people the right way. You're just scanning people all the time. What's that person thinking? What's that? Okay, they're in. Oh, they're definitely out. That person's scared. And you try to navigate and find people to mess with that the crowd will get behind, and that person also will be okay with it. Okay. And so it can't be just one or the other. I can't pick on someone who's really kind of into it, but like the crowd's not necessarily interested in it, or whatever. So, but sometimes you just get it wrong, and someone takes offense. Maybe they're a little, lubed up, and and you try to diffuse the situation, or sometimes you don't try to diffuse the situation. You kind of you're like, oh, I win them over. Like, how dare you, get offended at, I'm just messing around. And just before you know it, you're on the ground. Yeah. And, something's going down. And at that point, you just kind of have to
So thankfully,
you can't fight back. You know what I mean? You can't. You just kind of gotta just gotta get out.
That viral video of Tommy Hawk. Remember that back in the day?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that was great. He leaned into the brand of hockey.
Yeah, he beat the shit out of
It was great. It was great.
Yeah, but that dude was punched him first or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And just belligerent, just like meathead. Like, what are you doing? I mean,
exactly.
At no point. This is a guy in a costume.
Yeah. Shout out Tommy Hawk.
When big ups to shot Tommy Hawk.
Yeah.
I just picture him right now in the weight room, like, bring it. You just can't wait for the next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have like your most embarrassing moment?
Yeah. Yeah. They have a Benny rule. It's called the Benny rule now.
Because of you?
Yeah. For this.
Oh no.
The rest of the guys in the league were not happy because they're like, thanks, because it took away something that, it just changed a little bit. Now we laugh about it, but in the moment, not great. So, we would belay in. We would do different aerial stunts coming in. It was generally for playoffs or Benny's birthday, which is just every professional team will have a designated game that's that character's birthday. It changes every year because obviously it has to be a home game. When they invite, we'll fly in maybe, 6-7 pros from other teams, bring them in, and we entertain we do a lot of timeouts for the game. Fans love it because they get to see pro level mascots that they never get to see from other teams. And they're great. I mean, and everyone gets it. It's a lot of fun. So it's Benny's birthday. They're belaying in from under the scoreboard one at a time. It was pretty cool intro. I'm coming in from over the crowd because I'm doing this thing where I go down and then we do this diagonal descent, which picks up speed. It's kind of like a zip line. So, and then I was going to come over the crowd onto the court, which had not really been done much, if at all. So I'm excited for this because I'm going to do it obviously in front of these other pro guys, so it's a bit of a flex.
Yeah.
But a lot of things you got to rehearse here. One of which is make sure that nobody is on the runway, because generally you're just coming straight down. So you're like, okay, you can create a perimeter and nobody can walk in it. But so it's the same thing, but you're coming, in sideways. Yeah. So it's more of a runway. Mm-hmm. And so photographers, dancers, refs, wait staff, like where we're coming in, we just got to make sure. So we had that covered in rehearsals, but so we have one individual who, and he was awesome. Just wonderful. He was my full-time assistant. Mm-hmm. He's just great. Put up with a lot from me, that's for sure. I can be a little intense to work with. So that was his spot, because it was probably the most important spot of everything that was going on. So we're coming in, we've rehearsed, we've went through everything. So I start coming down in game. We get to the bottom of the first part, and then I start coming sideways. And let me go back. So before every game, I would go meet with the referees, and I bring them if we had a giveaway that night. I'm like, hey, it's here bobbleheads, here's whatever. Because these refs, they get to go home and they bring their kids, stuff from all around the league, or if their mascots happen to give them. So they love it. Go in and talk to them about that game. If I had a bit, I'm like, hey, in the first quarter, it'd be great if I come out with a kid, if and I'm kind of giving the kid a hard time, could you come and just shove me down? Or I'm going to hand you flowers. Could you hand them to just light stuff. Mm-hmm. But they were, the refs within reason. And if it's the right time of the game, they're open to these types of things because they understand that, fans in general are looking for an excuse to yell at refs. So if the refs can see that, or if the fans can see the ref is kind of a human being, I'm like, oh, that was cool. He went along with the bit. Yeah, that's cool. He's a good guy. Yeah. So, and it's just good branding. So went in to talk to the guys. Hey, it's a birthday game. They're like, oh, okay. So they know there's gonna be a bunch of idiots. And we all know each other. He's like, oh, is Mark here? Is Scott here from the thing? And I'm like, yeah, they're here. So I said, end of the first quarter or first time out, just if you could just not be anywhere near like the East basket, just, great, got it, cool. But like, games going on, they don't always remember. But they were away. We're coming down. I'm up hanging from the thing before it's go time. And, performing is obviously very important, but I'm also responsible for everything going right. And I'm looking down. I'm like, okay, the refs are not, they're where they're not supposed to. They're not where they're not supposed to be. It's not double negatives there.
Yeah.
So I'm like, we're good. We're all on board. So I'm like, okay, we're good. Oh, cool. Now I can just like let it go and let it rip here. Going down. We're coming down. Still okay. We're still clear. And I got the towels. I'm just so pumped. It's going well. This is a great way to start this game. I look down, and all of a sudden, they have now moved, and Todd, who's in charge of this, he'd done his job. He was like looking. He's made sure he'd spotted them. Cheerleaders good, photography spotted them, and now we're coming. So it's kind of like, okay, we're good. All of a sudden, they just kind of backed up significantly with pace. And I see this, I can see this happening. I'm like doing it. I'm like, I'm pointing, I'm gesturing as I'm coming down in a cost. I'm like, I'm just a person at this point hanging from a rope, yelling like he can possibly hear me. I'm like, get the ref. I'm pointing like, I'm pointing. And, it's in the moment, everything's happening. And he's kind of looking at me and he's like, yeah, Barry's really into it, and I'm like, no, get the, I'm just screaming, just yelling. Oh, I mean, if I could have taken the head off and just scream, I would. I mean, I was just like, because they're right there. Yeah. There's no way I'm going to avoid. I mean, they're in ground zero here. And I mean, he's still like, yeah, he's so excited because we've been practicing and rehearsing this. It's a lot of work and I'm like, and then became this point where I'm like, this is happening. This is happening. And if you watch the video, there's this moment where he kind of like, he sees that I'm actually pointing it, and he looks and he's, you go, oh, it's just too late. And it wasn't like his fault or anything. It was just kind of one of those things that happens. And so I'm going right in. So right before I hit him, I kind of like duck down and I hit the referee sort of like kind of like on the ass and the legs, just kind of like nothing. He kind of like went off the ground. It was lucky. I mean, we got kind of lucky here. Just kind of picked him up the ground and then put him back down because I hit him sort of folded over. But obviously, like, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
What are you guys doing? The guideline clipped him a little bit over the eyebrow. Oh. And so not only did I hit a ref, the game had to be delayed coming out of the timeout.
Because he was gushing blood?
There was some bleeding.
But no.
We didn't have to, there wasn't a triage situation, but there was definitely, it wasn't not a situation. So he's over there with our trainers. They're putting a thing on it. And I mean, I've now continued performing. Like, I hit this guy. I know that I'm potentially going to get fired. I have to just keep going. Like, that didn't happen. Throwing shirts, do the whole bit.
Did people go nuts? I mean, people don't like the refs, like you said.
I don't think it really registered. I think happened? People, because it wasn't like this dramatic, crash, and he fell down and there's just, everything stops. It was kind of this fluid thing that happened. I think people just were like, whoa, that was crazy. And I want a t-shirt. So it just kind of went, but then when the delay happened and he was over there I just felt this big. Yeah. Because now it's like, what are you doing, guys? What are you doing? You're hitting refs? Like, this is...
Now, was he pissed at you, or was he like, hey, they did tell me and I fucking...
No, he wasn't happy with me.
Okay.
For sure. I mean, but again, it's kind of like, and it's hard to explain this to people, but I'm on a rope. It's not like I have a steering wheel.
Yeah, you don't have
no control. There's nothing I could do short of cutting the line. But ultimately I'm the one who planned the stunt. Mm-hmm. It's my job to make sure all that stuff's complete. And, looking back, we should have had a separate person that was just in charge of the refs, just in case they go, just in charge. So that was on me, learning lesson. But so that happened. It was brutal. My boss was livid. Came back. He doesn't like leave the table, like the scores table, because he's there all game. He came back in the dressing room and just tore my face off.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Rightly so.
Did your guy get fired, or he was?
No. It wasn't his fault. Yeah, it wasn't his fault. Nope. Yeah. He felt awful, and I was probably a little upset in the moment, not knowing, what all would happen. But no, it wasn't his fault.
And now is the Benny rule, that's league wide?
Benny rule is like there's a certain time in the game where you're not allowed to rappel down onto the court during the game. Halftime and pregame are okay, but not during a timeout or anything like that. You can go up, but you can't come down.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And that's because of that incident.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
No shit. I can see it still kind of bothers you.
I'm sweating. It doesn't bother. It's just, when I like relive it, I just remember how stupid I felt,
Yeah.
I would, one other quick story. This was a little bit more funny, was with, so I would do this bet. Are we overtime?
No, we're good.
Do I need to go home?
We're good.
So I would do this bit where, I would work my way down a section in the crowd, and I would do the same bit, but I like every 3 or 4 rows, so that the people behind would see it, and then the next section would see it, and the next group of rows would see it. So there was this like anticipation, and the end goal is for me to do it at the bottom of the section where now 500 people have seen it and they all know it's coming. So they're all like, oh, this sucker's going to get it. So this particular bit, I was doing hats and shoes or whatever. So I get down and I took this shoe from someone like in the 3rd row. I just took it off his foot, do this, kind of put it in front of a kid's. He's like, ah. So I'm like, you do this to the crowd, subtle, like, like, yeah, get him, don't kill him with the shoe, And so I go down courtside, and the beauty about courtside people is like, there's a certain, I don't want to say animosity, but you're not someone who's probably ever going to sniff being near courtside or which most people aren't, I think there's this sort of like show off, kind of like, and sometimes there is a little bit of that, like, come on, why, why are you acting like that? You're kind of showing off a little bit, but so courtside people are kind of fun to mess with a little bit. So I go down, and we're right across from the Bulls bench, and play side. This is during the game, so I go down and I've got the shoe, and I'm now like up against courtside. They're all looking, and I was like, And they're like, get it, and they're all laughing like, and so I take the shoe, and again, bit done 1,000 times, right? You just kind of put it from the behind in front of someone's face, and they always go like this. It's not necessarily because it smells bad. It's more just
something's in my face.
Yeah, like, what is this? But of course, it reads as if it smelled bad, and it's like, you got him. And so I kind of I just pick random person. But then as I'm kind of doing it, I recognize who it is. And it's Jimmy Butler at the time had like 3 season tickets courtside directly across the bench. And it was like his trainer, one for his, best friend, and, maybe an agent or something like that. But it was always his 3 tickets. And so I reach over, I'm like, oh, that's him. So I put the shoe in front of him, and inexplicably, to this day, of all the options of what you would do in that situation, this would be the least. He grabs the shoe and throws it onto the court. Onto the court. It's in the key. It's just a man's shoe.
Mid-action, like they're playing the game.
They're on that side of the court. It's now coming down. They're coming right down. There's a shoe. Now this happens. You see NBA players. There's a shoe, but like nobody had a shoe, and and so the players kind of kicked it, but it was still on, and someone stepped on it. So the refs were like, "What the?" And everyone, like, whose shoe is this? It's no one's shoe. And everyone in this area had said, so it was very clear now that this shoe came from where I was. And, and Joakim is on the court, and he picks up the shoe, and it clicks with him, and he's like, "Come on, Benny, what the fuck?" And he like throws the shoe, and because he's intense, you know, and him and I got along great off court.
Yeah,
he was just super great. But like on the court, he was like, I'm not Benny material right now, and he was not having it. The fact that he yelled Benny's name and not like me, like he was going, Benny, and he was livid, and like everybody's looking at me like I threw it, obviously, because why would a fan throw a shoe on the court? Obviously it was the mascot. So that was another like super embarrassing situation where, and then, you know,
did that get banned or no?
Yeah, no shoe touching.
Really?
No.
Okay,
no.
so you could still.
It was more. This guy obviously felt like a knucklehead.
Did he get kicked out?
No, because I think everyone just assumed it was me.
Okay.
No one else.
Some of those people have no fucking humor though, and they're like, oh, like
no
circumstance you throw something in the court, you're out.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so that's why you never know.
Yeah. No, I think it was understood. The fact that it was yeah. So it was all good. Jimmy was not happy. We kind of had some words.
Oh really?
Yeah. The next day at practice, he was like, "I need to talk to you."
Who was it? His buddy?
He was like, "You can't don't involve my people in your stuff." He's like, "Normally it's not a big deal, but like he feels stupid. He got, you know, like called out a little bit by security, and because eventually it did come out that it was him, and he's like, I don't need that attention. Like he feels stupid. It like, you know what I mean?" And I was like, okay, fair. But also like, I was just doing my thing. Like I wasn't doing anything that was outside the bounds of what I would do with anyone. So let's be fair. And he's like, fair. Yeah.
Damn, that is a good story.
Just joking. Just livid. Benny, what the fuck, Benny?
What the fuck? That's great. Let's go through these ones too quickly. Best mascot in sports.
Is retired.
Maybe go from a performance standpoint and like a legendary costume, let's say. So maybe it's twofold for you. And if there's you could run through them. If
two folds.
Yeah. Right? Like I assume that's.
Yeah. Best costume. It's tough because you need the right performer to bring the best costume out.
Okay.
You know, I think a lot of costumes could be awesome if you put the performer in there that matches that costume. And it's not often that happens. You know, you see it at the top tier, the guys that have been in the league for a very long time, and their materials, you know, well established, and they're just the cream of the crop because the costume and the performance style and the brand of the team, brand of the city, personality, it's all gelled. So whereas like if you had someone else who was not maybe a top tier season performer in that costume, it would be like, ooh, it's kind of a shitty costume, you know? So, but you know, I think within the industry, you know, I think fairly much top to bottom, you would find 90% agreement that Rocky from the Nuggets was kind of the gold standard from, you know, a lot of ways. I mean, these days be considered like a great mascot. It's like the whole program because it's what you're doing on social, merchandising, your dunk team, you know, your in-game, your all of your things. You got to manage that program. But if you were looking at just pure performer and how he embodied that costume and that character was you watch him and you're just like, I'm watching a different level of entertainment here. I mean, it was brilliant. And so obviously, you know, you've got like the Fanatic who, you know, the Chicken, the Fanatic, like these people paved the way for a lot of this material. But you know, for my money, and I think for quite a few, he did it.
He's the gold. He's the gold standard.
Like doing it before, and he was doing it after I left.
He's the MJ of mascots for you guys. You guys are like Rocky. He's the gold standard.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember that time his son's gorilla like was like passed out when he was coming down? Was that real?
That was Rocky.
That was Rocky?
It's an amazing story.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know, amazing story. Amazing thing that had happened.
But he was,
and the gorilla, by the way, also incredible. I mean, it's not like a, he also, the original, he was just, also from Montana, oddly. But he's the one who really kind of broke the mold from the NBA standpoint and did all of the thing, all of the costumes. He was the first one to do all the stuff with the refs. He was brilliant, but
he was a good
sort of but the gorilla, he's kind of like, the gorilla is a character that is a lot of bravado, a lot of testosterone. He's funny, but the Rocky had I feel like a little bit more of a broader range of personality. But so he's getting ready to come do a ballet down onto the court. And he's getting harnessed in, and he tells the story better than I do, of course. He's in his harness, and he's that if the harness isn't properly on or like really tight, it kind of moves around, and it's got a strap here and a strap there and things where it's not super comfortable. So it just wasn't really fully tightened enough. And so he's hooked up, and you take that first step off where you're just hanging, which is like the most terrifying. The rest of it's fine. It's like skydiving. It's like the jump is the worst, but once you're out, you're like, oh, that's great. So he's off, you take tension, which means you're just hanging. And so the suit wasn't tight enough, the harness. So it kind of started to like creep up, and it was like,
choked him
like
out.
This, just choked him out. So he is like, if he had a little bit more time, he would have been like, but it was too late. And so he's like, okay, I just gotta get down.
Yeah.
And then they go, oh no, super. And they bring it, he's out. So he comes down just like a crest dummy. And hits the court like a rag doll. They don't drop him hard because he would, but he just folds.
It's an incredible.
And he folds, and his staff is like, oh, what's he doing? He's doing a bit. Like, that's funny. Normally he lands and he's crazy. Now he's like, oh, I'm sleeping. And they're like, okay, Rock, come on. The player, and they're like, come on, Rock, we gotta go. And they're like, oh, he's really committed to this. And they drag him off by his feet, and they're like, oh, it's funny, but they're kind of like, come on, dude. Then he comes to, he's like, what? Did I fall? He had no idea what had happened.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
that's great. Do you guys hate live mascots because they're taking work from you?
Yeah, there's a union situation behind the scenes. It's pretty ugly.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying. Mike the Tiger, Uga, Blue, all those guys.
Yeah. Bevo.
Yeah.
In the bovine world, especially, Benny and Bevo, yeah. Yeah,
you're one of those guys that protests Ralphie the bison in Colorado, aren't you?
Like, how dare you?
Animal cruelty.
Right.
Get a fake buffalo. Let me. I was just looking. That's why I was Googling here. We did a mascot draft, and I think I took the Oregon Duck 1-1 overall.
Quality choice.
Just college. It was just
quality choice. For colleges, they are the gold standard.
Yeah.
They get it. They get what a mascot should be. Not a cheerleader in a costume, which is generally what colleges do. Cheerleader in a costume. He's not a cheerleader. He's a mascot. He's an entertainer. So they get it. They get all the jokes. They're on a different level.
Different.
Yeah.
What was your least favorite part of being a mascot?
The putting it on.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah, it's like it's just a take your clothes off, you put it on, like it's not comfortable, and it just takes time, and it's boring, and you're like accepting the fact that you're getting out of your comfortable clothes and you're gonna put this thing on, and it's hot, you can't breathe and whatever. But then once it's on, you're like, this is great. So it's kind of this weird, it's just this. But yeah, that's easily the worst.
Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah,
but then 10 out of 10 times, as soon as you're into it, even if it's a boring event, you're still doing the thing that you love. You're still in this thing.
Yeah.
Getting to do what nobody in their right mind gets to do. Like I explain it this way to people, like the way that human psychology is just so bizarre. if I walk down courtside during a game as Benny and I go sit on the woman's lap and I'm flirting with her, you know, and I'm feeding her popcorn and we're boo boo, and she's gonna be, and they're like, "Hi Benny, you know, I missed you, boo," and you know, I can brush her hair, she'll brush my hair, give me like it's like this, it's this gag, like, and fans get into it, like they understand the bit, we're all in on it. As long as no lines are crossed here, it goes well. And the fans are like, "Oh yeah, Benny, nice," you know. If I take the costume off, same person, I'm still the same person, I get arrested.
Yeah, you're
right.
You're a pervert,
and it makes it's so silly, and even more so. Well, I don't know who's in there. Could be a complete stranger, but I'm okay with everything that's happening with him sitting on me and touching my hair.
Yeah.
But now I see who it is, but now it's not okay. So it's being able to have that role in events and at games where you just inherently have this permission to go past the line that you can't cross as a human without thinking. And it's, even if it's just like, it's just sort of, it's like,
Yeah.
do that. If I was sitting next to you and I just did that and you didn't know me, like, what's your deal?
Yeah.
But if a Mascot does, you're like, this guy, you know, it's okay. And that is a really addicting, you know, element to the job.
To doing it.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I got to imagine you got to be in incredible shape for this, like, because you're sweating, you're running. Like,
You would think, but it's, I mean, some guys are. There's some guys who take it like, it's just their lifestyle. You know, it's like the thing. It's your lifestyle or it's not. The act of actually mascotting a lot sort of keeps you in some semblance of shape, but it's. I mean, you've got guys who, you know, do, especially if their character's not really one that they ask to be doing a lot of dunking or a lot of high energy dynamic stuff. So yeah, there are guys in the, you know, various leagues who you wouldn't look at and go, "Oh yeah, he's a mascot."
Yeah.
We're like, "Oh yeah, he watches a lot of sports."
I have two more questions. One, we're talking about the best sports mascot. Do you have a best company mascot? Because we did a draft of that as well. Number 1 was Mickey Mouse.
So there's a lot of controversy about that within the industry.
Actually?
Yeah.
Oh, please.
There's some heated conversations, which tells you a little bit about the industry in itself. These are the things that we find important.
This is shit I love.
Is Disney a corporate mascot? And some will say, yeah. I vehemently say no. Because Disney, Mickey, they're born out of, you know, cartoons.
Yeah.
They're the stories and these movies. And you know, they have Disney World, Disneyland. They are characters that have costumes, but it's really about, you know, oh, what did Mickey and Minnie do on Mickey's Playhouse and da da da. They're not, and they don't have any leash. They're like, this is what you do. You wave with your left hand, you shake, you thumbs up, you wave. You can't, you know, this is how you bend down. That's not you're just a puppet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You could put anybody in these costumes. They just have to follow the script. So although they do a brilliant job at Disney, it's just, I look at a mascot as you've got a little bit more creative autonomy, different scripts, different
stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And you're able to be actually funny to adults and not just like no one's going to Disney and they're like, "Fuck, Mickey, always this guy." You know, it's just like, "Hey, Mickey, my kid, you know,
Yeah.
your shirt." So I'm going to take that off the table.
Okay.
If I was having a draft. You know, favorite corporate. So, I mean, corporate mascots have come, there's like this evolution that is happening right now with that world because, so, you know, with social media coming around and just other avenues of media and YouTube becoming so accessible, seeing corporate mascot usage and activation and commercials and social is so much easier now. And there's, I mean, you guys know, you're in the media world. There's so much competition for attention, and the attention span of people is so short that you really have to bring it if you want to keep people's attention. You can't just rely on how it looks. You know what I mean? You've got to, okay, that's how it looks, but what does it do? What does it say? How does, in any media format, you know what I mean? It has to actually connect with people. Yeah. When you guys talk about sports, everyone talks about sports. Everyone's got a sports show, but you guys just talk to fans like fans, and you're funny and you swear and nothing's, off limits. And people love that because that's not typically what's been out there. And you guys do it at a high level, high production value. Right. So you guys have done what, in your industry, what is happening across the board for a lot of industries. How do we get people's attention in a sea of other people trying to get attention? So in this industry, there has been this evolution happening where companies are wanting to kind of break out of the mold of where you would just have mascots that are just waving, being there, thumbs up, clapping, just sort of being representational. You look at, that's that company's mascot. That's the Michelin Man. That's Tony the Tiger. That's, you know what I mean? And because it's not interesting. And now with social media, that you've got this extra avenue. You've got a mascot. You don't have to pay, tons of money for, Jake from State Farm. You could have a mascot who is a little bit easier to manage, a lot more control over, and so you can do more content with them conceivably and use them in many other situations, but it's not interesting, he's just there. So companies want to make it more interesting because this is a thing that they already have equity in with their customers and their demographics. They people know this character. So how do we make it more interesting to compete? And so that is kind of just now happening, and it's cool. It's actually really cool because there was this disconnect between companies and mascots, where mascots were just sort of like there to be seen. So, they're to say mascot, and also there's like, well, is the gecko a mascot? He's animated. Yeah. I mean, they have a costume, sure, but the animated version is really funny. The Burger King is funny. But, in person, the gecko's not funny because they don't, they're giving him scripts, and maybe the costume is not really built to perform in, you know what I mean? It's just so
it's just different. Like they don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's kind of a hard question to answer, and I may have bias, because of the brands and companies that I work with. Mm-hmm. So, I would probably, lean in the direction of those and companies, that I know that see it in a different way, that understand, like, what could we do that's different, that hasn't been done, that's a little more elevated, a little bit more intelligent. So yeah, but I mean, Geico does a really great job. I mean, the fact that they had the gecko and caveman, pretty awesome. That they were able to pull off two completely separate characters and both of them be very well received and
well known.
And quality stuff. Like they're genuinely funny, and people want to consume their content, and which is you're just not really seen, often. So, but that's changing.
Yeah.
Rapidly.
For sure.
Yeah.
Since they sent a limo for you, I got to assume that the Reinsdorfs took care of you. What were they paying you? 1.1 million to be Benny the Bull, or what?
My first year.
And then it went up from there. But it's a good living, I assume. If
you're with a team who gets it, not every team does. Even at the pro level, it's not fully embraced because sometimes ownership owns a team for a very long time, and so it's hard to the people cutting the checks sometimes have that checkbook for a long time, so it's hard to convince them. But then as ownership turns over or high level roles turn over, and they have a more of an understanding of the contemporary needs for quality content, then you can see salaries kind of coming up.
So some mascots are like in the six figures, you'd say, like,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
You're rolling.
So the Reinsdorfs, Jerry, Michael could not be any more generous with all of their employees.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just wonderful people to work for in general. Just they, I feel like they really set the standard. And I think part of that was because of, the Jordan years. There was just so much attention on them. They really had to make sure they were doing it right so they could scale properly. And they were just good at it. And they treated their employees really well. So
that's awesome.
It, took a few years for them to kind of see, oh, okay, we can trust this guy. And okay, he takes it seriously. We see. And then there was a guy that came along actually it was actually when Michael Reinsdorf took over the president's role. And then there was a guy that worked for the Bulls named John Viola, and he was sort of a business mentor of mine. And he Michael's was like his first week, and he walked into Michael's office and was like, we gotta pay this dude. Yeah, and he was just like, yeah, just have him put something together. And it wasn't even a thought. And so,
nice.
Yeah, they were very, very good. Top to bottom, they were very good to me.
That's awesome. And then did you just, it was time to go? You want to do something different? Or,
Yeah, honestly, I look back, had I taken, a consult from someone and really, talked to someone who maybe has went through this kind of thing on a corporate level, I would have, I probably would have just taken time off. I burnt out. There was just a lot of changes happening with the team, on the business side. And things were really rolling hard with Benny. We were firing on all the cylinders. It was going really well. And there was so much to do all the time. There were no breaks. So, I was having a hard time managing, any changes or, just managing just all the schedule. And I just kind of got fried. And, it wasn't the team's fault or anything. I chose to just, so when I tell people they're younger now that are sort of in this business, open comers, you're not, there's this mentality, I feel like, in the world where you have to go pedal to the metal, balls out all the time, grind hard, never stop, don't take days off. Like if you want to succeed, and that's just insane. You have to take that time off. You got to take time to like reset, evaluate, take a break, recharge, all of those things. That it's very important. But I didn't. I just was like, I gotta go, and then my head exploded. Okay. So So I mean, had I just taken like a summer off, which the Bulls would have been fine with, I'm like, take the summer off, man. I'd probably be
still there.
Yeah, still there. But I'm extremely happy with my life now. And
are you allowed to say what mascot you are now? Or mascot you are? You don't have to if you don't want to.
What mascot I am?
Yeah, now.
Well, so I work with a lot of different companies, and brands, and so it's not always performing. Some it is, kind of depends on their budget or what they need. But some companies need help with costume redesign. So I work with the costume company that actually is in Chicago, and they're amazing.
Well, consult position.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Cool.
Yeah. Help really whatever they need. If they want to update the look, create a new one, we have one. How do we launch him? We want to do some cool social content. We have a commercial we're shooting, and we want a mascot actor in it, not just like a regular actor. Helping companies staff events with, professional mascot actors in various parts of the country. Luckily I've been around long enough to have a network of people who are quality performers. So if, Portillo's has an event in Tampa and, they say, hey, we need, this is our next event. We need a good performer. I've got one on deck. I handle pay, so take care of all that business for them. And then they can just deliver,
nice.
To the client. So
that's awesome.
And, with the bigger clients that are more larger scoped, then it's all of it. It's help with the the costume development, collaborating with, the costume company here in Chicago Mascot Company. Helping see, one thing I help, provide companies is I've been in these costumes. I know what is needed on the inside so that your investment doesn't go to waste. You can't just like have a costume that looks really good, but the guy can't see, and it's a nightmare to be in. And so helping companies through that process so that they are getting maximum return on their investment for these things. How to use them. If it's a sporting event, I have a unique insight and background on like, well, here's what would work really well. Here's some examples of things that did not go well, and here's maybe why, so we can avoid maybe some of those pitfalls and lean in this direction. And
all encompassing, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I love it.
And then my last question, we can end here. Within your 14 years as Benny the Bull, your favorite Bulls player to do stuff with, like to mess around with, and the player who wanted nothing to do with it.
Oh boy, what was his name? He was a Cavs player for a long time, and he came to Bulls for a while, and he was just a rotten egg. Oh man, I wish I could remember his name.
What years?
We were still at the Berto Center.
Okay. So
practice facility. So it was, I can't really remember. I just remember he came from the Cavs. He was just, I can't remember his name. One of the, as in terms of the one of the worst guys to work with.
Was it Larry Hughes?
Larry Hughes.
That was it?
Not fun.
Okay.
Just wasn't into it. And who knows what was going on in his life or whatever, but he was just, he wasn't really pleasant about his communications, that he didn't want to be involved, but in any of it, from the Bulls. Favorite, Robin Lopez is pretty much, he's like a mascot's best friend.
Yeah, makes sense.
There's certain people like Pau Gasol, Robin Lopez, I'm sure there are many others who they're just, even Kobe was like this. Just their intelligence is just on a different plane. And like Robin, he just got it. He understood, he understood what he did. He's like, I get to play a game for a living. I'm tall and I'm athletic, so I get to do this ridiculous thing. But he's like, I have other interests in life, and I see the fun. He loved the whole sports theater notion of it. And he understood what the mascots were doing, even if there was like no communication, like, hey man, I'm gonna be doing this thing, if you could do this. He just got it. He got the jokes, and he understood now. And all of the mascots, it caught fire. Every mascot, it was like, okay, what did you do with Robin Lopez this game? And he just went with it, and he was gold every single time. He never disappointed. So he was great, even though he wasn't on our team. But on our team, Jimmy was great. He despite the story I told, he was always, he was always very generous. Yeah. And he would never like big time you. Yeah. When I would try to do something, he would just roll with it.
Would Rose get into it? He doesn't seem like that type of guy.
Yeah, he was shy.
Yeah.
He was shy about it. He wasn't like too
not about
school,
it. Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
but he, and that's just part of reading the thing, right? That's part of the job. You're just like, all right, I'm just gonna let him. He's also like, probably gonna have his jersey retired someday. You just could tell even then. Like, I'm just gonna let him. Yeah, there are other guys I can mess with.
I'm watching the video of you taking out the ref. You are very much pointing. Now I see what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know if that's awesome. He didn't fall down though.
It could have been a lot worse. If I would have been
tore an ACL or something,
a foot higher or lower, it would have taken him out. He would have fallen, or it would have hit him in the head. It was the best case scenario for it being the worst case scenario.
Barry, thank you for jumping on, man.
Oh yeah, it was. It was an interesting ask when someone connected through like, hey, Eddie wants to have you on the show. I was like, I doubt it.
No, yeah, some great stories.
It was nice. Awesome. I don't do these very often.
Any
thanks for the water.
Oh yeah,
great water here at Body Armor.
We got a bunch. Anything to promote or anything before we get out of here? Or no?
Barstool.
All right, there we go.
Yeah.
Barstool. Barry, thanks, man.
Yeah.
All right,
no
that's it, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll see you guys next time.